So there I was, Jake Morrison, mid-level Earth diplomat, standing in the Grand Hall of Galactic Council Station Omega, holding a cat carrier and wondering whose career I had accidentally ruined in a past life to deserve this moment. Let me back up. When I got the assignment brief for this trip, it said, and I quote, "Routine peacekeeping summit. Bring appropriate materials demonstrating Earth's commitment to galactic harmony." I figured that meant boring spreadsheets about trade agreements and maybe a fruit basket. You know, normal diplomat stuff. What I did not expect was to walk into an arena-sized conference hall filled with the galaxy's most terrifying predators. And I'm not talking about the delegates, though Commander Threll of the Kralix Empire could probably kill you just by flexing aggressively in your direction. No, I mean actual predators. Real, live, apex of the food chain killing machines. The Kralix had brought something that looked like a T-Rex, had angry relations with a scorpion, and the offspring went to the gym every day for 1,000,000 years. It had armor plating, 6 eyes, and what I can only describe as murder claws. It was currently chained to the floor with restraints that looked like they could hold a spaceship, and it was still making everyone nervous. The Stellarians, those elegant, floating, squid-looking scholars who think they're better than everyone, they brought this sleek panther thing that apparently hunted by making its prey hallucinate their worst fears before eating them. Super normal. Very chill. There was a Torvik battle beast that was just teeth. Like, I don't know how to explain it better than that. Teeth with a body attached. Teeth as a lifestyle choice. And the Zendarans brought something aquatic in a hover tank that I refused to look at directly because every time I did, I felt like it was calculating how much meat was on my bones. Meanwhile, in my regulation Earth Embassy cat carrier, Mr. Whiskers was taking his third nap of the hour. Mr. Whiskers, for those keeping track, is an 11-pound orange tabby cat who belongs to my roommate Derek. Derek, who was supposed to be at this summit. Derek, who got food poisoning the night before launch and begged me to take his spot because, quote, "It's just a boring peace conference, Jake. Nothing ever happens at these things." I was going to kill Derek. If I survived this, Derek was a dead man. "Ambassador Morrison of Earth," the announcement echoed through the hall, and suddenly every pair of alien eyes, and some non-eyes, turned to look at me. "Present your homeworld's apex predator for council evaluation." Apex predator. They wanted Earth's apex predator. I looked down at the carrier. Inside, Mr. Whiskers had shifted position so his butt was facing the front window. He was still asleep. This was fine. Everything was fine. I was definitely going to get humanity kicked out of the Galactic Council, and it would absolutely be my fault. But everything was fine. "Yes. Hello. Hi," I said, my voice somehow working despite my brain screaming. "Slight question. When you say apex predator, you mean like, metaphorically speaking, or the dominant predator of your planet's ecosystem?" High Arbiter Ven announced from his floating podium. He looked like a crystalline mantis wearing judicial robes, which was exactly as intimidating as it sounds. The ultimate expression of your world's evolutionary pressure. The hunter at the top of the food chain. Right. Cool. Great. I looked at Mr. Whiskers again. He had started snoring. Commander Threll's laugh boomed across the hall. "The humans brought a pet? Oh, this is rich. I heard Earth species were weak, but this is beyond my expectations." Ambassador Quilnara's tentacles rippled with what I was pretty sure was the Stellarian equivalent of a smirk. How quaint. "Do tell, Ambassador Morrison, does this creature have any notable capabilities? Or did you simply bring your emotional support animal?" My face was burning. The other delegates were whispering, laughing, already writing Earth off as a joke. And you know what? They weren't entirely wrong. I had literally brought my roommate's cat to an apex predator show and tell. But I was here now, and I was representing humanity. And if I was going down, I was going down with whatever dignity I could scrape together. I cleared my throat. "Esteemed council members, may I present Earth's apex predator?" I set the carrier down and tried to project confidence I absolutely did not feel. "Mr. Whiskers." The laughter that followed could probably be heard from space. This was going to be a long day. High Arbiter Ven raised one crystalline claw for silence, and the laughter died down to mocking chuckles. "Let us proceed with proper introductions. Each species will present their predator's credentials before the evaluation begins." Commander Threll stepped forward first, because of course he did. The Kralix were basically space Vikings, all muscle and bravado and war stories. Threll himself was 8 feet of scales and bad attitude, wearing enough military medals to set off a metal detector from orbit. "Behold the Razor Fiend of Kralix Prime," he announced. gesturing to his scorpion T-Rex nightmare. Apex predator of the volcanic badlands. Armored hide impervious to plasma fire. Venomous tail capable of dissolving titanium. Hunts in packs of 20. But this male is dominant enough to hunt alone. He has personally killed 17 challengers in territorial combat. The Razor Fiend roared, and I'm pretty sure I felt it in my bones. Several delegates applauded. I tried not to whimper. Ambassador Quilnara floated forward next, her tentacles arranging themselves in what was probably the Stellarian version of a formal pose. The Stellarian contribution is the Mind Reaver, an obligate psychic hunter native to our moon colonies. It projects fear directly into the cerebral cortex of its prey, causing complete neural paralysis before consumption. Its success rate is 97%. It has never failed a hunt. The Mind Reaver, sleek and dark with too many legs, turned its head toward the audience. I felt a cold trickle of unease run down my spine, and I was pretty sure it wasn't even trying yet. A Torvik delegate, who looked like a bear mixed with a boulder, grunted forward. Gorthak the Render. Bite force of 12,000 pounds per square inch. Claws sharp enough to cut through starship hull plating. Native to Torvik 3, where everything is trying to kill everything else. Gorthak has survived 30 mating seasons. Most survived 2. Gorthak chose that moment to snap his jaws, and the sound echoed like a gunshot. Point made. The Zendaran ambassador, speaking through a translator because they lived underwater, described their contribution as the deep sovereign, patient hunter of the abyss, survivor of pressures that would crush lesser beings into component molecules. It had apparently lived for 300 years and eaten things I didn't want to think about. Each introduction was more impressive and terrifying than the last. These weren't just predators. They were evolutionary masterpieces, fine-tuned killing machines that had clawed their way to the top of their respective food chains through sheer survival of the fittest brutality. And then there was Mr. Whiskers. Ambassador Morrison, High Arbiter Ven said, and I detected what might have been amusement in his crystalline voice. Perhaps you would like to present your predator's qualifications? Every eye in the hall fixed on me again, and on the carrier, where Mr. Whiskers had finally woken up and was now staring out the front window with those half-closed eyes cats have when they're judging you. I knelt down and unlatched the carrier door. Nothing happened. Mr. Whiskers looked at the open door, looked at me, and then turned around inside the carrier so he was facing the back. Commander Threll's booming laugh returned. It refuses to emerge. The mighty Earth Predator is cowering in its den. He's not cowering, I said with more confidence than I felt. He's just strategically evaluating the situation. It appears to be grooming itself, Ambassador Quilnara observed. How formidable. She wasn't wrong. Mr. Whiskers had started licking his paw. I reached into the carrier and gently pulled him out. He went limp immediately, doing that thing cats do where they become boneless and 40% heavier. I held him up like some kind of furry offering to the galactic gods of humiliation. This is Mr. Whiskers, I said. He is a Felis catus, commonly known as a housecat, native to Earth, descended from desert hunters. He has retractable claws, excellent night vision, and a flexible spine that allows for rapid directional changes during pursuit. How large are his prey? Asked the Torvik delegate. I hesitated. Mostly insects, sometimes small rodents. Once he caught a bird, but he felt bad about it and brought it inside, still alive. At 3 in the morning. The silence that followed was deafening. Let me understand this correctly, Commander Threll said, his voice dripping with contempt. Your apex predator hunts insects? Very effectively, I said weakly. Mr. Whiskers, still hanging in my arms like a furry sack of potatoes, yawned. His pink tongue curled, showing tiny fangs that were adorable rather than threatening. Then he started purring. It is vibrating, Ambassador Quilnara said. Is it malfunctioning? That's purring. It means he's content. Your apex predator is content? Commander Threll looked like he might have an aneurysm. The Razor Fiend knows only rage and hunger. That is what makes a true predator. I set Mr. Whiskers down on the floor. He immediately found a patch of artificial sunlight from the station's light panels, walked into it, and flopped onto his side. Then he went back to sleep. Esteemed Council, I said, grasping for anything that might save this disaster. What you're witnessing is actually an advanced form of psychological dominance. By appearing completely unbothered, Mr. Whiskers is demonstrating that he considers nothing in this room a threat. It's a power move. It looks like napping, the Torvik delegate grunted. Aggressive napping, I countered. High Arbiter Ven's crystals chimed with what I was learning to recognize as laughter. This promises to be an entertaining evaluation. Shall we begin the trials? I looked down at Mr. Whiskers, who had rolled onto his back with his paws in the air, fully asleep and completely unaware that he was about to represent the entire human race in a contest against the galaxy's most terrifying predators. We were so screwed. High Arbiter Ven's platform descended to the arena floor, his crystalline form refracting the lights into rainbow patterns that would have been beautiful if I wasn't busy having a small panic attack. The evaluation will proceed in 3 phases, he announced, his voice echoing with artificial amplification. First, hunting prowess. Second, strategic thinking. Third, dominance displays. Each predator will be assessed on their performance across all categories. Oh good. 3 separate opportunities for humiliation instead of just 1. How efficient. Commander Threll, as representative of the current Council military leadership, your Razor Fiend will demonstrate first. Threll grinned, showing way too many teeth. Gladly, High Arbiter. Release the combat drones. A dozen mechanical targets zipped out from wall panels, weaving through the air in complex patterns. They were roughly the size of basketballs, covered in sensors, and moving fast. The Razor Fiend didn't wait for a command. It lunged forward with terrifying speed, its tail whipping through the air. The first drone exploded in a shower of sparks. Then the second. The creature moved like violence given form, all power and precision, and barely contained rage. Within 30 seconds, every drone was scrap metal. The hall erupted in applause. Commander Threll bowed, looking insufferably smug. Adequate, High Arbiter Ven said, which I was learning was basically a standing ovation in council speak. Ambassador Quilnara went next. Her Mindreaver didn't move as dramatically, but somehow that made it worse. It simply stared at the new set of drones, and they began jerking erratically, colliding with each other, their navigation systems apparently freaking out from the psychic interference. Within a minute, they'd all crashed. The Mindreaver demonstrates that true predation is cerebral, not merely physical, Quilnara said smoothly. More applause. I was starting to sweat. The Torvix Gorthak just waited for the drones to get close, then swatted them out of the air like they were annoying flies. Casual, effortless, terrifying. The Zenderon's Deep Sovereign, still in its hover tank, used some kind of electrical pulse that fried the drone's circuits before they even got close. Every predator was magnificent. Every demonstration was impressive. And then it was our turn. Ambassador Morrison, High Arbiter Ven said, and I swear I heard amusement in his voice. Your turn. I looked down at Mr. Whiskers, who had moved from his sunbeam to investigate a small imperfection in the arena floor. He was sniffing it intently, his tail swishing. Right. Yes. Mr. Whiskers will now demonstrate his hunting prowess. The drones deployed. They zipped around the arena, clearly programmed for the same pattern as before. Mr. Whiskers glanced up at them, watched them for approximately 3 seconds, then went back to sniffing the floor. Any moment now, I said. Mr. Whiskers sat down and started grooming his face with his paw. Commander Threll's laughter boomed across the arena. The mighty hunter strikes again. Watch as it licks itself. Truly, we are witnessing evolution's greatest achievement. My face was burning. He's just not interested in artificial targets. Cats are very particular about what they consider prey. Perhaps if we made the drones smell like insects, Ambassador Quilnara suggested, and several delegates chuckled. High Arbiter Ven waved a claw, and the drones retreated. Let us proceed to strategic thinking. Each predator will be presented with a puzzle that requires problem-solving to access a food reward. Oh, great, a puzzle. Because Mr. Whiskers was definitely going to cooperate with that. They set up a clear box with a treat inside. Multiple openings, but only one correct path to the reward. The kind of thing you'd see in an animal intelligence study. The Razor Fiend smashed through it in 2 seconds. Not exactly strategic, but effective. The Mindreaver apparently just made the researchers think they'd already opened it, and they handed over the treat voluntarily. That was actually pretty strategic, now that I think about it. Gorthak studied the box for exactly 5 seconds, then bit through the reinforced plastic and took the treat. Problem solved. The Deep Sovereign solved its aquatic version by using its tentacles with surprising delicacy, navigating the path perfectly on the first try. Then they presented Mr. Whiskers with his box. He walked up to it, sniffed it, looked at me. Then he knocked it off the table. The box clattered to the floor, the treat rolling out from the impact. Mr. Whiskers calmly walked over and ate it. The arena went silent. That, High Arbiter Ven said slowly, that was not the intended solution. But it worked, I said quickly. He identified the objective, assessed the most efficient path to achieve it, and executed his plan. That's strategic thinking. He broke the puzzle, Commander Threll protested. He solved the puzzle, I countered. Just not the way you expected. That's actually a sign of higher intelligence. Thinking outside the box. Or in this case, knocking over the box. Mr. Whiskers, having finished his treat, sat down and stared directly at High Arbiter Ven. His tail swished once, slowly. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw a few delegates nodding thoughtfully. Maybe, just maybe, I'd made an actual point. The final evaluation, Ven announced, will be dominance displays. Each predator will demonstrate their ability to assert territorial control. The razor fiend roared and smashed its tail against the floor, creating a crack in the reinforced surface. The Mindreaver projected waves of fear that made half the audience step backward involuntarily. Gorthak simply stood up on his hind legs, revealing his full 9-foot height, and everyone got the message. The Deep Sovereign released some kind of bioluminescent display that was hypnotic and vaguely threatening. Then Mr. Whiskers walked to the center of the arena, looked around at all the assembled predators and delegates, and began grooming his butt. I died inside, but then he did something that changed everything. He stopped mid-groom, his eyes suddenly fixed on something the rest of us had missed. His pupils dilated. His whiskers went forward. His entire body tensed into a coiled spring of focused, predatory intent. And somewhere in the back of the arena, a maintenance drone beeped as it rolled across the floor. Oh no. Oh yes. We shall conclude with a live hunt simulation, High Arbiter Ven announced, apparently deciding that we hadn't had enough chaos yet. To truly test predatory instinct, we will release live prey into the arena. Wait, what? Is that safe? I asked, watching as panels opened in the walls. The prey species are non-sentient and bred specifically for this purpose, Ven assured me. Each predator will have the opportunity to demonstrate their hunting efficiency in real conditions. What emerged from those panels was a nightmare variety pack. Small, quick creatures that looked like rabbits crossed with lizards. Flying things with too many wings. Something that might have been a space deer but with armor plating and an attitude problem. Begin, Ven commanded. What happened next can only be described as controlled chaos. Emphasis on controlled, which lasted for about 15 seconds before becoming just chaos. The razor fiend went absolutely berserk. It charged after everything, roaring and smashing and spraying venom. It caught 3 prey animals in the first minute, which was impressive, but it also destroyed 2 observation platforms and cracked a support beam. The Mindreaver stalked its targets with eerie precision, but the prey animals were apparently too simple-minded to feel proper fear. It adapted, sure, but there was definitely some frustration in how it had to resort to actual physical contact. Gorthak just planted himself in one spot and grabbed anything that came near. Efficient, but not exactly what I'd call hunting. More like aggressive fishing. The Deep Sovereign was having navigation issues outside its tank and kept bumping into things. The whole arena had become a mess of running prey, competing predators, and increasingly nervous delegates. Commander Threll was shouting encouragement to his razor fiend. Ambassador Quilnara was taking notes with her tentacles, looking mildly disapproving of the chaos. And Mr. Whiskers? Mr. Whiskers was still frozen in place, staring at that maintenance drone like it was the only thing in the universe that mattered. The drone, oblivious to its role as the catalyst for what was about to happen, beeped again and rolled toward a wall panel, probably trying to do some routine repair work. I watched Mr. Whiskers' eyes track it, watched his haunches lower into a crouch, watched his tail start doing that little pre-pounce twitch. Oh boy, I muttered. Commander Threll noticed. Ha, the Earth Predator has finally decided to participate. Let us see how it fares against prey that can actually move faster than— He didn't get to finish that sentence. Mr. Whiskers moved, not like the other predators moved. They were all power and aggression and dramatic displays of dominance. Mr. Whiskers moved like liquid death, like physics had taken a coffee break and forgotten to apply the normal rules. He went from sitting to full sprint in 0.0 seconds. His body stretched out low to the ground, legs pumping in perfect rhythm. He wasn't chasing the drone. He was intercepting it, calculating its trajectory with the kind of precision that would make a missile jealous. The butt wiggle came next. You know the one. Every cat owner has seen it. That little side-to-side movement that cats do right before they pounce, like they're calibrating their internal targeting system. The maintenance drone rolled past a support pillar. Mr. Whiskers launched. I'm talking full extension. All 4 legs off the ground. Claws deployed, moving through the air like a furry missile with a personal vendetta against mechanical objects. He hit that drone with surgical precision. Wrapped around it. Claws dug in. The drone's wheels spun uselessly as Mr. Whiskers executed what I can only describe as a barrel roll, pinning his prey to the ground with his back legs, while his front claws disassembled it with the efficiency of a pit crew. The entire hunt, from target acquisition to kill, took exactly 4.3 seconds. I know because the arena's timer was still running. 4.3 seconds. The arena went absolutely silent. Every predator stopped what they were doing. Every delegate turned to stare. Even the prey animals seemed confused about whether they should keep running or stop to watch. Mr. Whiskers, sitting on top of the now thoroughly defeated maintenance drone, looked up at the assembled Galactic Council and licked his chops. Then he started batting at one of the drone's loose components, making it skitter across the floor so he could pounce on it again. Did. Ambassador Quilnera's voice was uncertain for the first time since this whole disaster began. Did that just happen? Commander Threll's jaw was hanging open. That was. The Razor Fiend's best time is 6 seconds. For much larger prey, the Torvik delegate grunted. Gorthak's record is 8 seconds. That is considered exceptional among our species. High Arbiter Ven's crystals were chiming rapidly, which I was learning meant he was either very amused or very confused. Possibly both. The target was not living prey, he finally said. No, I agreed, finding my voice and my confidence at roughly the same time. It wasn't. Because you want to know what makes cats truly exceptional as predators? I had everyone's attention now. Even Mr. Whiskers paused his victory celebration to look at me, probably wondering if I had more treats. They don't hunt because they have to, I continued. They hunt because they want to. Cats were domesticated 8,000 years ago. We feed them. They don't need to kill to survive, but they still have the instincts, the skills, the drive of their wild ancestors. The African wildcat, the apex predator of its environment. I walked over and scooped up Mr. Whiskers, who immediately went limp and started purring. Humans took obligate carnivores, animals with a hunting success rate of around 32%, which is higher than lions, by the way, and we invited them into our homes. We live with them, sleep next to them, let them sit on our keyboards while we work. Commander Threll was staring at me like I'd just confessed to being completely insane. They practice hunting multiple times per day, I continued. Not for food, for fun, for sport, for the pure joy of the hunt. Your predators are apex because they had to be to survive. Cats are apex because they choose to be. Even after thousands of years of domestication, even after we removed the need for them to hunt, they still do it. I held Mr. Whiskers up again. He yawned, showing those tiny fangs. And they do it while being cute enough that we forgive them for leaving dead things on our doorstep as gifts. The silence stretched out. Mr. Whiskers wiggled in my arms, so I set him down. He immediately walked over to where a ceremonial artifact was sitting on a display pedestal, looked directly at High Arbiter Ven, and then deliberately pushed it off. The artifact clattered to the floor. Mr. Whiskers sat down, wrapped his tail around his paws, and waited. It is, Ven said slowly, asserting dominance. Yep, I said. By destroying our property. He's not destroying it. He's just relocating it. Aggressively. Ambassador Quilnera's tentacles were rippling again. But this time it didn't look like mockery. It looked like actual consideration. I am beginning to understand why humans might be more formidable than initial assessments suggested. Commander Threll was still staring at Mr. Whiskers, who had now flopped onto his side in the exact spot where the artifact had been, claiming it as his territory. Your species lives with these creatures? Threll asked. Voluntarily? Millions of them, I confirmed. And we consider it normal. The Razor Fiend, I noticed, was keeping its distance from Mr. Whiskers. Interesting. Commander Threll recovered his composure, though I could see he was struggling with it. Ambassador Morrison, with all due respect, your predator hunted a mechanical device, not living prey. The demonstration, while admittedly impressive in speed, does not represent true predatory capability. Several delegates murmured in agreement. I felt my brief moment of triumph starting to slip away. That's actually exactly my point, I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. You want to talk about true predatory capability? Let's talk about it. I gestured to the arena, where the other predators were still working through the prey animals. Every predator here hunts out of necessity. Survival. The biological imperative to eat or die. That's respectable. That's evolution working as intended. Mr. Whiskers chose that moment to roll onto his back, exposing his belly in what looked like total vulnerability but was actually a trap. Any predator knows you don't touch the belly. That's where the murder claws are. Cats hunt for sport, I continued. They're obligate carnivores who hunt successfully enough that humans decided to keep them around for pest control. And then we got attached and started feeding them premium food from cans. We removed their need to hunt. We eliminated the survival pressure entirely. I walked a slow circle around the arena, feeling like I'd accidentally stumbled into a closing argument I actually believed in. And yet, they still hunt. They still stalk. They still practice their kills on toys, on bugs, on anything that moves. Because it's not about survival anymore. It's about excellence. About maintaining an edge they don't technically need. Ambassador Quilnara's tentacles had stopped moving. She was listening. They all were. Your razor fiend is impressive, Commander Threll. Truly. But tell me, what happens if you feed it regularly? If you remove the hunger drive? Threll frowned. It would still hunt. The aggression is innate. For how long? A generation? 2. How many generations of regular feeding before the hunting instinct begins to dull? His silence was telling. Cats have been fed by humans for 8,000 years, I said. 250 generations, give or take. And they haven't lost a single step. My roommate's cat, Mr. Whiskers here, catches bugs in our apartment with the same efficiency his wild ancestors used to catch desert rodents. The instinct is that deeply embedded. The Torvik delegate grunted. Gorthak hunts because Gorthak is warrior. Warrior does not need hunger to fight. Fair point, I acknowledged. But Gorthak is a warrior by culture. Cats are hunters by nature. There's a difference. We didn't train them. Didn't breed them for combat. They came that way. We just decided we liked having tiny, efficient killing machines sharing our living spaces. That seems ill-advised, Ambassador Quilnara observed. Oh, it absolutely is, I agreed. They knock things off tables. They wake us up at 3 in the morning. They bring dead things into the house and look offended when we're not grateful. And we love them anyway, because we respect what they are. Mr. Whiskers, as if on cue, stood up, stretched with that full-body arch cats do, and padded over to Commander Threll's position. The razor fiend tensed, chains rattling. Threll's hand moved toward his weapon. Mr. Whiskers sat down just outside the razor fiend's range and started grooming himself. The razor fiend stared at him. Mr. Whiskers ignored it completely. He is showing contempt, Threll said quietly. The smaller predator shows contempt for the larger. He's showing confidence, I corrected. There's a difference. The razor fiend knows it's dangerous. Mr. Whiskers knows he's dangerous. One of them needs to prove it. The other one doesn't care about your opinion. High Arbiter Ven descended from his platform again, approaching Mr. Whiskers with what looked like cautious curiosity. Ambassador Morrison, I believe I am beginning to understand the nature of your species' evolutionary path. Oh, I tried not to sound too hopeful. You did not simply develop alongside predators, or develop as predators yourselves. You invited predators into your social structures. You coexist with creatures perfectly capable of harming you, and you do so voluntarily. For companionship. Well, yes, we also have dogs, but that's a whole different conversation about pack dynamics and… Dogs? Quilnara interrupted. You have multiple predator species in your homes? I mean, they're not all predators. Some people keep rabbits. Though I guess those are prey animals, so maybe that's different. Oh, and birds. But some of those are actually pretty aggressive. My aunt had a parrot that could… Ambassador Morrison. Ven's crystals chimed for attention. Please focus. Right. Sorry. Yes, we have multiple species. Cats, dogs, birds, fish, reptiles, even spiders for some people, though I personally think that's taking things too far. The assembled delegates were exchanging glances. Not mocking ones this time. Uncertain ones. Let me make sure I understand, Threll said slowly. Humans share their dwellings with predators. You feed them, shelter them, allow them access to your most vulnerable moments. Your sleeping quarters. Your young. Yeah, that's pretty standard. And these predators, they accept this arrangement? I looked down at Mr. Whiskers, who had moved back to his sunbeam, and was now sprawled out in a position that somehow took up 3 times his actual body mass. Accept might be a strong word. Tolerate? Enjoy the benefits? It's complicated. Humans domesticate apex predators. The Torvik delegate rumbled. This explains much about human negotiation tactics. Ambassador Quilnara's tentacles rippled in what I was now certain was her version of a nervous laugh. When humans joined the Galactic Council, we thought them soft, weak. They arrived with offers of trade and cultural exchange. We assumed they were prey species that had achieved spaceflight through luck or technological compensation. To be fair, I said, that's not an unreasonable first impression, but a species that lives with predators for companionship is not prey, she continued. They are something else entirely. Mr. Whiskers yawned again, stood up, and walked directly toward High Arbiter Ven's discarded ceremonial artifact. He sniffed it, looked at Ven. Do not, Ven said. Mr. Whiskers maintained eye contact and pushed it with one paw. It rolled slightly. I am warning you, Ven said. Mr. Whiskers pushed it again. Harder this time. Your predator is deliberately testing boundaries, Ven observed. Yeah, he does that. It's a cat thing. Establishing hierarchy. With me, the High Arbiter of the Galactic Council, he doesn't really care about titles, or authority, or consequences. Mr. Whiskers gave the artifact one final push, sending it rolling across the floor. Then he sat down in its spot and began purring, looking enormously pleased with himself. High Arbiter Ven's crystals chimed in a pattern I hadn't heard before. It took me a moment to realize it was laughter. Actual, genuine laughter. Ambassador Morrison, he said, I believe your entry into this evaluation has been acceptable. Acceptable. From a galactic bureaucrat, that was basically a standing ovation. Thank you, High Arbiter. However, Ven continued, and my heart sank. We must address one remaining concern. Of course there was a concern. There's always a concern. What concern? I asked, trying not to sound as tired as I felt. High Arbiter Ven gestured to Mr. Whiskers, who was now grooming his tail with the dedication of a surgeon performing delicate work. Your predator has demonstrated acceptable hunting capability, unconventional strategic thinking, and remarkable psychological dominance. However, we must establish one final criteria. Can it be controlled? I blinked. Controlled? The purpose of this evaluation is to assess each species' relationship with their apex predator, to understand the balance between species. So I ask you, Ambassador Morrison, can you control your predator? Every eye in the arena turned to me, then to Mr. Whiskers. I thought about every time I'd tried to give Mr. Whiskers a bath, every time I'd attempted to trim his claws, every single instance of finding him on the kitchen counter despite explicit and repeated rules about not being on the kitchen counter. No, I said honestly. Absolutely not. Commander Threll's eyes widened. You cannot control your apex predator? Nobody can control a cat. That's kind of the whole point of cats. Then how? Ambassador Quilnara asked slowly. Do you coexist with them? I walked over to where Mr. Whiskers was grooming and sat down next to him. He paused, looked at me, then head-butted my hand. I scratched behind his ears, and the purring intensified. We don't control them, I explained. We negotiate. We offer food, shelter, and affection. They offer companionship, pest control, and the occasional dead bird. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement between two species that both think they're in charge. But you feed them, Threll protested. You provide resources. That makes you dominant, does it? Mr. Whiskers here gets fed twice a day, has premium medical care, and sleeps on the most comfortable furniture in the apartment. Meanwhile, I'm the one who cleans his litter box and buys his food with money from a job I have to wake up early for. Who's really in charge? The silence that followed was profound. You are saying, the Torvik delegate rumbled, that humans serve their predators? I'm saying it's complicated. We're not masters and pets. We're roommates who happen to be different species. Sometimes I think I'm taking care of him. Sometimes he brings me a dead mouse and clearly thinks he's taking care of me. We've agreed to disagree on the hierarchy. Mr. Whiskers, having decided he'd had enough attention, stood up and walked directly toward Commander Threll. The massive Kralix warrior tensed. His hand went to his weapon again. Mr. Whiskers walked right past him, completely ignoring the 8-foot-tall space Viking, and approached the Razor Fiend. Stop your predator, Threll commanded, but his voice had lost its earlier confidence. I literally just explained I can't do that. The Razor Fiend, 12 feet of armored death that had terrified everyone in the arena, lowered its head as Mr. Whiskers approached. The cat stopped just outside striking range, sat down, and did that slow blink thing cats do when they're comfortable. The Razor Fiend blinked back. Then it laid down, its massive head coming to rest on the arena floor, completely submissive. What? Commander Threll whispered. In the name of the 7 war gods. Huh, I said. I think your predator just acknowledged the hierarchy. That is impossible. The Razor Fiend bows to no creature except larger Razor Fiends and only after combat establishes dominance. Well, Mr. Whiskers didn't fight it. He just existed at it. Very confidently. Mr. Whiskers, having made his point, turned and walked back to me. I picked him up, and he immediately went limp, purring like a small motor. High Arbiter Ven's crystals were chiming rapidly. I have witnessed many things in my tenure as High Arbiter. This is among the most fascinating. Ambassador Morrison, your predator has demonstrated not only hunting capability, but psychological dominance over creatures significantly larger and theoretically more dangerous. To be fair, I don't think he knows he's smaller. Nobody told him. And you maintain that you cannot control this creature? I can occasionally convince him to not knock things off tables. That's about the extent of my influence. Yet you trust him in your dwelling, around your young, during your most vulnerable moments. I looked down at Mr. Whiskers, who was now drooling slightly on my sleeve, fully relaxed and completely trusting. Yeah, I do. Because the relationship isn't about control. It's about mutual respect. He respects that I provide food and comfort. I respect that he's a perfect killing machine who chooses not to kill me. It works. Ambassador Quilnara's tentacles rippled thoughtfully. When humans first joined the Council, we assumed your advancement was despite your nature. Now, I wonder if it was because of it. A species that negotiates with predators rather than dominating them would naturally excel at diplomacy. Or, Commander Threll said, his voice uncertain, they are simply insane. Both are possible. ¿Por qué no los dos? I offered. What? Old Earth saying, means why not both? High Arbiter Ven rose to his full height on the platform. After extensive evaluation and considerable deliberation that mostly happened in my head just now, I declare humanity's entry into the Apex Predator assessment. Acceptable. Acceptable. There was that word again. I'd take it. Furthermore, Ven continued, I believe this council has learned something valuable today. Dominance is not the only path to survival. Partnership, even with those we cannot control, can be equally effective. Perhaps more so. Commander Threll still looked confused, but he nodded slowly. The Razor Fiend submitted to the small predator. I witnessed it with my own eyes. I must reconsider our approach to dominance hierarchies. Also, I added, maybe don't underestimate species based on size. That seems like a good general rule. Ambassador Quilnara's tentacles formed what might have been a smile. Agreed, Ambassador Morrison. I believe humanity has earned a degree of respect today. A small degree, but respect nonetheless. I'd take that too. As the delegates began filing out, discussing the evaluation in hushed tones, I collected Mr. Whiskers' carrier and tried to coax him back inside. He looked at the carrier, looked at me, and jumped up onto my shoulder instead, draping himself around my neck like the world's most judgmental scarf. We're going to have to walk through the station like this, aren't we? He purred in agreement. As we headed toward the exit, Commander Threll approached, the Razor Fiend following behind him with significantly less swagger than it had arrived with. Ambassador Morrison, he said, his voice uncertain. Your predator. Does it require special containment? Nope, just a carrier and some treats. Why? The Razor Fiend has been looking at it nervously for the past 10 minutes. I have never seen this behavior before. I glanced back. Sure enough, the massive creature was keeping a respectful distance from Mr. Whiskers, who was now grooming himself on my shoulder, completely unconcerned. Yeah, cats have that effect. You get used to it. I am not certain I will. As we walked through the corridors of the station, other delegates stepped aside. Some pointed. Some whispered. A few took pictures with their various recording devices. Mr. Whiskers accepted the attention as his due, occasionally deigning to look at someone who seemed particularly odd. When we finally reached my quarters, I managed to extract Mr. Whiskers from my shoulders and set him on the bed. He immediately curled up and went to sleep, his job apparently done. I sat down at my desk and pulled up my personal log, trying to figure out how to report this disaster-turned-triumph to Earth Command. Day 1 of the Galactic Council Summit. I recorded. Accidentally brought my roommate's cat to an Apex Predator competition. Cat asserted dominance over a 12-foot armored killing machine by ignoring it. Humanity has gained respect through sheer audacity and one small orange tabby. Also, I'm definitely updating my resume to include interstellar cat wrangler, because apparently that's a valuable diplomatic skill now. I paused, looking over at Mr. Whiskers, who was snoring softly. Derek owes me so many drinks when I get home. Mr. Whiskers' ear twitched, but he didn't wake up. He'd represented Earth, terrified alien warriors, and claimed dominance over a galactic arena. Now he was taking a well-deserved nap. Honestly, that was the most cat thing he'd done all day. And somehow, that was exactly why it worked.